Can you believe a war criminal who tells lies all the time would change his story? For those who are in denial, y'all know that the Israeli spokesperson gets information before the media does. But when he tweeted this immediately after it happened, he didn't delete it until videos of the scene were released on the internet. All of a sudden, IDF intercepted a call between Hamas members admitting that they did it. They can't intercept a call hearing where the hostages are being held. Y'all really believe they're sitting there calling one another saying, we just did that? If you listen to that call and you're Arab, you know exactly what kind of accent that is, because these clowns know how to speak Arabic, but they sound like idiots when they do. Sadly, I believe no matter what Bibi does, people will defend him as if he's their father instead of condemning him for his war crimes. I want to believe it's because they really don't know the history of this man. Here's a tiny sliver of it. In 1995, Yitzhak Rabin was Israel's prime minister and he was assassinated. You might have heard of the Oslo Accords, where he actually tried to bring peace between the Israelis and Palestinians. And at the time, Benjamin Netanyahu, or Bibi if you will, was head of opposition and attended a right-wing political protest against their prime minister. And at this protest, people were calling the prime minister a traitor, a murderer, a Nazi, because he signed a peace agreement with the Palestinians. And in another protest, there were people marching behind Bibi, holding up a mock coffin for the prime minister. He was not the guy who assassinated the prime minister, and he likes to pretend that he was opposed of protesters calling the prime minister a traitor. He made his stance very clear. I thought he was wrong and mistaken in the direction he took. It was an error to make peace with the enemy. So he's against making peace with Palestinians. He's for oppression. He commits war crimes. He's bombed previous hospitals, but this one he didn't do.
The Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, the architect of the Middle East peace process, has been assassinated.
The assassin, a right-wing Israeli Jew, Yigal Amir.
Truly shocking news from the Middle East tonight. Israel's Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin has been assassinated.
Evening spent dreaming of peace turns into a national nightmare.
Outside the hospital, the crowd began to chant, Bibi is a murderer. The sign says, Bibi, Rabin's blood is on your hands.
An assassin has taken yet another world leader away from us. It was just after the biggest peace rally in Tel Aviv.
Rabin's widow blamed Netanyahu for contributing to her husband's death.
The assassination of Yitzhak Rabin has also produced shock in the Palestinian community.
And said so on worldwide television.
Your husband pointed the finger at Mr. Netanyahu and said, you must stop this incitement.
Yeah.
To what extent do you blame Mr. Netanyahu and the Likud for what has happened?
I do blame them. In a rally in Kikar Zion in Jerusalem that showed him in the uniform of a Nazi. So Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, now we can say from here to eternity that he didn't support it and didn't agree with it, but he was there and he didn't stop it.
Before we talk about the audio that the Israeli government wants us to believe was Hamas, I want you to read this piece that was written years ago about the way the Israeli government commits war crimes, tries to blame the Palestinians, then they admit that they did it, but by then it doesn't matter. Please pause. Now, you may or may not know, but Channel 4 News is a British news channel, and this man right here, Alex Thompson, is the chief correspondent. He's worked with them for over 25 years. Now that you know his background, let's look at something he tweeted. Several experts confirm Hamas's view to Channel 4 News that the audio tape of Hamas's operatives talking about the missile malfunction is a fake. They say the tone, syntax, accent, and idiom are absurd. Did I or did I not tell you earlier that if you speak Arabic and you heard the audio, you know for a fact that's not an Arab speaking? The Israeli government knew that most of us were not going to believe that BS, but there were going to be those that are going to try and argue with us. We're going to go back and forth and we're not going to pay attention to what they're continuing to do. And after bombing a hospital last night, they bombed a mosque. They also bombed a United Nations school, killing students, teachers, and staff. And one of my favorite journalists in Gaza is currently hiding in a hospital, one of the only hospitals left in Gaza, and he is terrified because they're bombing right next to the hospital. Take a look. Just so you know, there was a draft resolution today at the UN Security Council where they asked to put a pause on what's happening in Gaza to bring the civilians water, food, and all that jazz. And the only country that vetoed was the United States. I genuinely don't even know what else to say. I am so disgusted. I am appalled, but I'm not surprised. I'll show you something beautiful. There's an organization called Jewish Voice for Peace. I follow them on Instagram. Today they rallied in DC and they actually protested in Congress. Some of them did get arrested, but here's the video. I know we're all feeling completely helpless and hopeless, but there are ways that we can help. I have a link in my bio. We can donate, we can contact Congress, and we can contact our senators and House reps.
Here's every hospital Israel's bombed in the last 10 years. And schools. Refugee camps. Now Israel is saying that this hospital bombing wasn't them. And sure, they ordered all the hospitals in Gaza to evacuate 3 days before the bombing. And sure, the Al Ahli staff said they got phone calls for 3 straight days before the bombing telling them to evacuate. And of course, there's also the multiple tweets Israel deleted shortly after the bombing and the laughably fake phone call Israel claimed to have intercepted between 2 Palestinian militants, the Al Jazeera investigation, which completely debunks Israel's claim that a Palestinian rocket fell on the hospital, the multiple military veterans that have said the projectile sounds exactly like a US-manufactured missile. And of course, there's also the fact that Israeli generals and politicians have been promising to flatten Gaza for the last 2 weeks, saying there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. And yeah, they turned off all the electricity to Gaza, all but collapsing the hospital system a week before the bombing. And I know what you're probably thinking right now. Israel did it. But here's the thing. This is what experts call anti-Israel bias.
Israel bombed a hospital in 2014, the only rehabilitation center in all of Gaza, Al-Wafa. Israel tweeted a fake photo alleging to show a rocket being fired, but according to Amnesty International, the image tweeted by the Israeli military does not match satellite images of the Al-Wafa hospital and appears to depict a different location. Yep, Israel lies a lot. It's actually become something of a problem. Israeli Major General Yitzhak Brick complained that the military suffered from a culture of lying, a culture of lies, whitewashing, and concealing information. This isn't anything new. Israeli journalist Uzi Benjamin said back in 2006 that the state authorities have acquired for themselves a shady reputation when it comes to their credibility. Mark Garlasco, a weapons expert and former Pentagon hitman, complained during the 2008 Gaza war about Israel's use of white phosphorus. They said in Lebanon they did not use cluster bombs. We found 4 million. How can anyone trust the Israeli military? To find out more, I'm GDF on YouTube.
This material which was found on the body of one of those sadistic villains. It's Al-Qaeda material, official Al-Qaeda material. We're dealing with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas. This is what we're dealing with. And in this material, there were instructions how to produce chemical weapons. It speaks about...
This material was found? Are you sure it wasn't printed out? I mean, I'm not accusing you of anything, but this sure does look like material that was just, well, printed out online. But you guys wouldn't do that, though. Israel wouldn't do that. No. And when you showed this blurred picture, I just had to double check it. I had to make sure that this wasn't printed out online. So you do your best to unblur it, and then you reverse image search it. and I came up with somebody else's PowerPoint, like slides discussing terrorism. This person's slides, Dr. James Forrest, where he discusses, what do you know, chemical weapons. But on slide 20, it has a similar image in the top left. When you compare it to this one, why wouldn't you want us to see what the evidence is? Is it because you printed it out? No. You guys would never do such a thing. In summary, this whole Group H chemical weapons thing, well, it's just more propaganda, atrocity propaganda. You make up a big lie so you can have an excuse to go and, well, commit more genocide. Why would Group H print out a cover of a book, just the cover of a book from 2010, and use that in 2023? Just the cover of the book. They just have it randomly on them? Why? And they just mixed and matched it with Dr. Forrest's slides? What is the logic here? This doesn't make any sense.